Shalom, Israel. It's Kazawan. And the name of this video is A Filthy Mouth Makes You Look Filthy. I'm doing this video because this is a subject that I don't see anybody talking about, but it definitely needs to be addressed. Now, those of us who claim to be representatives of the Most High, we have a responsibility to set a certain standard. We have to be more conscious of what we say out of our mouths and the image that we portray to those who see us. Too many of us deny or don't realize the importance of properly representing the Most High through our speech. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 11. It says, "When I was a child, I spake as a child." See, every child speaks like a child. Why? It says, "I understood as a child. I thought as a child." So when a child speaks, he uses certain words because he doesn't know any other words to use. It says, "But when I became a man," when the child grows up, he learns other words that are more appropriate. And once he becomes an adult, it says, "I put away childish things." See, too many of us claim to be representatives of the Most High, but we're walking around speaking like the children of this world. And this is how some of us sound.
It don't make no mother sense how you act. And I don't give a how you feel. Y'all a bunch of hoes. And you women ain't nothing but a bunch of The Most High is tired of this bull.
This is how a lot of brothers talk while they're teaching. How in the world is that spiritual? That's crazy. Every other word is sound like a rap concert. We're supposed to be the light of the world, but many of us sound just like the world. That can't be right. And a lot of us know that's not right, but we do it anyway. The worst part is you have new people coming into the truth, and they're being told that that behavior is the spirit of the Most High. So they're picking up the same habits and perpetuating the same speech. Now, this might not seem like a big deal to some of y'all, but it is, because it makes us look like unlearned, immature little children with no discipline or spiritual understanding. We got to raise the standard as the representatives of the Most High. Now, a lot of people try to use what Paul said to justify how they speak. However, they're taking Paul out of context. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 6. It says, "But though I be rude in speech, yet not in knowledge, but we have been thoroughly made manifest among you in all things." So people use this verse to say that Paul himself used filthy language. They say, Paul was rude in speech. He used so-called cuss words, but he still had the knowledge of the gospel. Listen, let me be clear. I understand that there's a difference between curse words and so-called cuss words. Curse words from a Hebrew mindset is to actually put a curse on a person. And so-called cuss words is just filthy language. I also understand that the Most High is bigger than all these words, but that's not the issue. The issue is the way that we conduct ourselves as representatives of the Most High. Yes, Paul said that he was rude in speech, but what he said has absolutely nothing to do with so-called cuss words or filthy language. We got to get rid of this doctrine because it's a stain on our garments. Let's look up the word rude in this verse. So we see it's G2399 in the concordance, and it's the Greek word idiotes. This is where you get the English word idiot from. An idiot is somebody who lacks skill. Now let's go down to the outline of biblical usage. Look at the fourth entry. It says, in the New Testament, meaning in the New Testament, the word rude means, it says, an unlearned, illiterate man. Watch this. As opposed to the learned and educated. So this is someone who is not skillful in a particular field. It says, one who is unskilled in any art. So the word rude in 2 Corinthians 11:6 is a reference to being unlearned or uneducated or unskillful in a particular area. It has nothing to do with using filthy language. Let's go back to 2 Corinthians 11:6. It says, but though I be rude in speech, in other words, though I'm not learned or educated by your standards, or though I'm not as eloquent as you are in my speech, it says, yet not in knowledge. In other words, I'm not lacking in knowledge. I know what I'm talking about. It says, but we have been thoroughly made manifest among you in all things. We have proven ourselves to be knowledgeable in every way. That's what Paul is saying. It has nothing to do with him using so-called cuss words. So we got to stop teaching that because that's not true. Let's further prove what Paul is talking about. This is Acts 4 and verse 13. It says, now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were, watch this, unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Yahushua. Notice it says that the people perceived that Peter and John was unlearned and ignorant men. The word ignorant in this verse is idiotes. It's the same Greek word as rude in 2 Corinthians 11:6. Peter and John were regular men. They didn't have the scholarly credentials that some of the more learned people had. However, they knew the scriptures. They were skilled in understanding. So again, when Paul said he was rude in speech, he wasn't talking about filthy language. So that verse can't be used to justify it, especially when you're teaching the word. It doesn't look right for you to be holding the Bible and then cussing like a sailor. We got to do better, Israel. Now, I was recently told that brothers are using Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 11 to justify using filthy language while they teach. Let's read it. It says, for with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people. So brothers are saying that the stammering lips in this verse means that you can mock our people who reject the truth by using filthy language towards them. They say you can call people a-holes, mother effers, and other names of that sort. Now, this is honestly shameful. See, this is the kind of stuff that makes people look down towards us. This is the kind of stuff that makes people not take us serious. Yes, we are the people of the Most High. We're the children of Israel. But when we say stuff like this, it puts a dark cloud over us. This verse has nothing to do with using filthy language towards people who reject the truth. Nothing at all. Let's look up the word stammering in this verse. So we see it's H3934, and it's the Hebrew word la'ig. When you go down to the outline of biblical usage, it says mocking. And letter A says mocker. The definition under it says a buffoon. Watch this. Also a foreigner. That's important, a foreigner. It says mocker, stammering. Now, let's go back to Isaiah 28 and 11. It says, For with stammering or mocking lips, watch this, and another tongue, meaning a foreign tongue, will he speak to this people. So the Most High said that he would speak to us through mockery from a foreign tongue. What is this talking about? Let's go up to verse 1. It says, "Woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim." So this is speaking about the northern kingdom of Israel and their rebelliousness against the Most High. It says, "Whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine." So the northern kingdom was rebelling against the Most High. So he promised to bring a judgment against them. Verse 2. "Behold, the Lord have a mighty and strong one." This mighty and strong one is talking about Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria. It says, "Which as a tempest of hail and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing, shall cast down to the earth with the hand." Verse 3. "The crown of pride, the drunkards of Ephraim, shall be trodden under feet." So Isaiah prophesied that the Assyrians would trodden down the northern kingdom under its feet. So the northern kingdom would be taken away into captivity because they refused to listen to the Most High. So now that we understand that, let's jump down to verse 11. It says, "For with stammering or mocking lips and another tongue, a foreign tongue," it says, "will he speak to this people." In other words, the northern kingdom didn't listen to the Most High. So he put them in the Assyrian captivity to be mocked and ridiculed by the Assyrians. The Assyrians mocked us. And through that mocking, we got the message that the Most High was sending, which was to turn away from our sins and to turn back to him. The Most High put the other nations over us for them to mock us and to ridicule us in another language so that we would be confounded and turn to him for deliverance. That's what it's talking about. We see the same thing in Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 49. It says, "Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth." Here it is. "A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand." This is the same thing that he did to us in the Assyrian Empire. So that verse is not talking about us mocking our people through filthy language. You cannot use that verse to justify you ridiculing your own people through filthy language. Now, somebody might try to rebuttal this point by pointing to Elijah when he was dealing with wicked Israelites. Let's read it. This is 1 Kings chapter 18 and verse 25. It says, "And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal." Now, these are wicked Israelites. It says, "Choose you one bullock for yourselves, and dress it, for ye are many, and call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under." Verse 26. "And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leaped upon the altar which was made." So these wicked Israelites called on their false gods all day long, but they never received an answer. Now, let's see what Elijah did. Verse 27. "And it came to pass at noon," here it is, "that Elijah mocked them." So Elijah began to mock these wicked Israelites. Now let's see what he said. It says, "And said, Cry aloud, for he is a God. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth and must be awake. So Elijah mocked these wicked Israelites for believing in another God. There's nothing wrong with what Elijah did, because he mocked them by making fun of their false God. But where is the verse where Elijah called them, you stupid mother effers, or you bunch of a-holes? Where is that verse? Where do we see that kind of language in this story? It's not there. Now, maybe those particular words didn't exist during that time, but where do we see him using similar language of that time towards these people? We don't see it. In fact, we don't see him calling them anything at all. What we do see is him mocking their belief. Now, somebody might say, brother, you weren't about some so-called cuss words, but if you read the rest of the story, you'll see that Elijah put these people to death. Yes, he did. But you're not Elijah, and we're not living in the time of putting people to death. We're living in the time of edifying our people and reconciling them back to the Most High. And so-called cussing somebody out is not edification. So if you speak that way to our people, that's because that makes you feel good. But don't put that on the Most High. That's not the Most High Spirit. That's you. So we can't use this story to justify filthy language either. Now, let's go to Philippians 3:8, because this is another verse that people use to claim that Paul used so-called cuss words or filthy language. This is Philippians 3:8. This is Paul talking. It says, yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Yahushua my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things. Here it is. And do count them but dung, that I may win Yahushua. Now, we know that dung is excrement, which today is referred to as shit. So some people say that Paul was using filthy language because he said dung. That's not true. Paul was using the common term among the people for animal excrement. Let's look up this word dung. So we see it's G4657, and it's the Greek word skubalon. And when we go down to the outline of biblical usage, it says, any refuse, here it is, as the excrement of animals, offscourings, rubbish, dregs. Watch this. Of things worthless and detestable. So the point is not even about the actual excrement. It's more about the point of it being worthless. Now let's read the definition. It says, what is thrown to the dogs, i.e. refuse, ordure, dung. So again, the point is that it has no value. So Paul didn't actually say the word dung. He said the Greek word skubalon. This is written in Greek. Skubalon was the common term used for animal excrement among people of that time. It's just like us today saying doo-doo. Paul wasn't using filthy language. He was using the common term of that language at that time. Now, the English translators used the word dung, but that also helps us to understand that Paul wasn't using filthy language. Why? Because the King James Bible was translated in 1611, and the word shit existed at that time. So if Paul was using so-called cuss words or filthy language, then why didn't the translators use the word shit instead of using the word dung? Look at this. This is an etymology website called etymonline.com. And this is the word shit. It says, Old English seat, purging, diarrhea. From source of shit. It says, sense of excrement. Watch this. Dates from the 1580s. See that? Again, the King James was translated in 1611. So the translators had the option of using this word, but they didn't. It says, Old English had ceto, Middle English shittle for dung, excrement. It says, the usual 14th century noun seems to have been turd. So as we can see, the translators could have used the word shit, but they didn't, because they understood that Paul wasn't using filthy language. Paul used the Greek word skubalon, which is the same thing as us today saying doo-doo. Now here's where it gets even more outrageous. Some people even go as far as to say that Yahweh Shai used filthy language when he taught. This is Matthew 23 and 33. This is Yahweh Shai talking to the scribes and the Pharisees. It says, Ye serpents, ye generation of vipers, how can ye escape the damnation of hell? So here we see Yahweh Shai calling the Pharisees serpents and vipers. So some people are saying that these terms back then are equivalent to so-called cuss words today. That is simply not true. What Yahweh Shai is actually doing is calling the scribes and the Pharisees the children of the devil. Let's prove it. This is John chapter 8 and verse 44. Again, this is Yahweh Shai talking to the scribes and the Pharisees. Watch this. It says, Ye are of your father, the devil. So Yahweh Shai told the scribes and the Pharisees, your father is the devil. Now, what else is the devil called? He's called a serpent. Look at this. This is Revelation 12 and 9. It says, and the great dragon was cast out. Here it is. That old serpent called the devil. So we see that he's called the devil and the serpent. Now let's go back to John 8 and 44. It says, Ye are of your father, the devil. So Yahweh Shai told the scribes and Pharisees that the devil or the serpent was their father. It says, and the lust of your father ye will do. Why? Because children tend to act like their parents. It says, he was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own. Watch this. For he, the devil, the serpent, is a liar. Here it is. And the father of it. So the devil or the serpent is a father to those who act like him. Yahweh Shai said that the scribes and the Pharisees was the children of the serpent. Keep that in mind. Now, this is Matthew 23 and 33 again. Yahweh Shai is talking to the Pharisees. It says, Ye serpents. Remember, the devil is a serpent, and the scribes and the Pharisees was the children of the serpent. So he called them serpents. Like father, like son. It says, Ye generation of vipers. The word generation means offspring. Vipers are snakes. So all he's saying here is that they are the children of the chief serpent, which is the devil. Not naturally, but spiritually, the Pharisees and the scribes were the children of the devil. This has nothing to do with Yahweh Shai using filthy language. See, there's no way that the Bible would teach that it's okay to speak in an unseemly manner. This is Colossians chapter 3 and verse 5. It says, "Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth." Mortify means to kill or subdue. So these are things that we're supposed to eliminate from our lives. It says, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Verse 6, "For which things' sake the wrath of the Most High cometh on the children of disobedience." Verse 7, "In the which ye also walked sometime, when ye lived in them." In other words, we've all done unrighteous things in the past. Verse 8, "But now ye also put off all these." So now we're going to read the things that we're supposed to lay aside now that we're in the truth. It says, anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy. Here it is. Filthy communication out of your mouth. When you come into the knowledge of the truth, you have a responsibility to conduct yourself in a spiritual manner at all times. You got to get rid of your old nature. And part of that old nature is the filthy communication that used to come out of your mouth. You should not be using the same obscene language that you used to use before. Now, of course, somebody will try to philosophize this away by saying that this is not talking about obscene language. So let's look up filthy communication. So we see it's G148, and it's the Greek word eschatologia. When you go down to the outline of biblical usage, it says foul speaking, here it is, low and obscene speech. Now you can try to twist this if you want, but so-called cuss words, filthy language, is obscene speech. Let's read the definition. It says, vile conversation, filthy communication. So whether you're having a wicked conversation in general, or if you're just using obscene language, either way you look at it, filthy language is filthy communication. And Colossians 3 and 8 says to put it away, especially when you're reading the Bible. How are you reading the scriptures in one breath and then using filthy language in the next breath with the Bible in your hand? You gotta know that's not right. Or have you really allowed yourself to be seduced to the point that you actually think it's okay? Ezekiel chapter 22 and 26 says that we're supposed to put a difference between the holy and the profane. It also says that we're supposed to show the difference between the unclean and the clean. We're supposed to be the representatives of the Most High. So the Spirit should be telling you, this is not right. I shouldn't be talking like this, especially when I'm reading the scriptures. I represent the Most High. This is James 1 and 26. It says, if any man among you seem to be religious. This word religious is the Greek word thraskos, and it means a worshiper of the Most High. So if anybody presents themselves as a worshiper of the Most High, it says, and bridleth not his tongue. If you don't get control over your mouth and how you talk, it says, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain. If you don't take the time to discipline your mouth, your walk is in vain. Why? Because you don't properly represent the Most High, and you're making them look bad in the eyes of the rest of the world. Again, we are the children of Israel, and how we act reflects upon the Most High. Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about slipping up, and making a mistake. That can happen to anybody while you're working on getting better. The Apocrypha talks about that. This is Ecclesiasticus 19 and 16. It says, "There is one that slippeth in his speech, but not from his heart." So it's possible to slip up and make a mistake. It says, "And who is he that have not offended with his tongue?" We've all said some offensive things in the past at some point in our life, rather it was a so-called cuss word or just an offensive statement in general. However, there's a difference between slipping up and just freely using filthy language on a regular basis with no concern. Some of us don't even try to watch what we say. In fact, some of us have convinced ourselves that that's the spirit of the Most High. It's not. Again, you might slip up by mistake, but watch this. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 20 and verse 18. It says, "To slip upon a pavement is better than to slip with the tongue." In other words, it's better to slip and fall on your back than to not have control over your mouth. So we must learn to be disciplined in our speech. This is James chapter 3 and verse 2. It says, "For in many things we offend all." We have all offended somebody before in some way. It says, "If any man offend not in word," if you're able to speak to people and not offend them with your words, it says, "the same is a perfect man." Watch this. "And able also to bridle the whole body." That's why this is so important. If you learn how to control your mouth, you can control your whole body. See, it's all about discipline, and your mouth is the perfect place to start. Here's the thing. We all know that there's nothing spiritual about the filthy language of this world. So if we are spiritual, why try to justify using those words? Now, here's what somebody will say in response. They'll say, "Well, the whole English language is not spiritual, but we still use it." See, that's the type of argument that a stubborn person will make because they don't want to change. That logic is extremely faulty. The English language, or any language outside of the Hebrew, is not spiritual. But we have to use languages to express ourselves. And among these languages that we use, there are common words that are acceptable for everyone. And then there are other designated words that we all know are considered to be dirty or filthy words. So let's not pretend like all the words in the English language are the same. Because if they are, then why do you tell your children not to use them? The reason is because you know that those particular words are considered to be filthy. So if certain words are designated as filthy words, we should not use those words. 1 Thessalonians 5 and 22 says, "Abstain from all appearance of evil." You don't even want to put yourself in a position where somebody could say, "Oh, look at that. Oh, look how you talk." Ephesians 4 and 27 says, "Neither give place to the devil." Don't give anybody the opportunity to be able to say to you, "Oh, you expect me to listen to you with the way you talking?" That matters to the Most High. So don't even open that door. Abstain from all appearance of evil. Again, Paul said, "When I was a child, I spake as a child." I dropped a couple of F-bombs in the past. It was funny. It made me feel good in the flesh. But when I got older, I put away childish things. I learned how to express myself like an adult in a manner that was respectable and conducive to the furthering of this truth. This ain't about us as individuals. This is about the Most High. So we have to conduct ourselves in a respectable manner because we represent him. This is Philippians 2:13. It says, "For it is the Most High, which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure." So the Spirit of the Most High is supposed to be leading us to do his will. Verse 14, "Do all things without murmurings and disputings." Watch this. Verse 15, "That ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of the Most High, without rebuke." Watch this. "In the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as lights in the world." Now, how can we be blameless in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation if we speak and sound just like the crooked and perverse people we're around? How can we shine like lights in this world if we speak and sound just like those who we claim are in darkness? Our speech and conversation is supposed to be different from the rest of the world. Verse 16, it says, "Holding forth the word of life." We're supposed to speak the words of life, not death. It says, "That I may rejoice in the day of Yahushai." Here it is. "That I have not run in vain, neither labored in vain." So Paul was concerned that if he wasn't careful, all the teaching that he did could end up being in vain. And that's my concern for all of us. This is Matthew chapter 15 and verse 18. This is Yahushai talking. It says, "But those things which proceed out of the mouth," watch this, "come forth from the heart." So this is not talking about a slip up like we talked about earlier. This is what's inside you. When you use filthy language on a regular basis, you're talking that way because it's a part of you. It's who you are. And it's coming from your heart, which is your mind. It says, "And they defile the man." See that? The words that you speak defile you as a person. Let's look up the word defile. We see it's the Greek word koinao. And when you go down to the outline of biblical usage, it says to make common. So the way that you talk can take you out of a righteous state and make you common just like everybody else. Letter A says to make Levitically unclean, render unhallowed or unholy. Why? What does the word holy mean? It means separate. But if you're just like everybody else, then you're no longer separate. You're common. It says defile, profane. The word profane means to take something holy and make it common. Now watch this. Letter B says to declare or count unclean. So the things that come out of your mouth can declare you to be spiritually unclean. Why? Because you can't be a light to the world when you sound just like the world. Again, we're supposed to speak words of life. See, we have a responsibility to be different from everybody else. This is Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 29. It says, "Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth." Now, once again, somebody's going to say that corrupt communication is not talking about filthy language. Well, it's not specifically talking about filthy language, but filthy language falls under the umbrella of corrupt communication. How do we know? Because it goes on to say, "But that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers." Filthy language does not edify anybody. In fact, it tears people down. Filthy language does not minister grace to those that hear it. It does the exact opposite. Therefore, so-called cuss words fall under the umbrella of corrupt communication. And the verse says that we should not let it proceed out of our mouths. Verse 30, it says, "And grieve not the Holy Spirit of the Most High, whereby ye are sealed unto the day of redemption." In other words, don't offend the Spirit of the Most High. Now, this is extremely important because many brothers are teaching that when they quote unquote cuss people out while they're teaching, they're doing that under the influence of the Spirit of the Most High. That is a lie. And when you say stuff like that, you're grieving the Holy Spirit. It's offensive to the Most High to speak that way and then say that he's the one making you do it. Produce the verse where we see a prophet of the Most High talking like that while the Holy Spirit is on him. I'm not talking about a prophet prophesying against wickedness. I'm talking about a prophet using filthy language. It doesn't exist. We already looked at what Elijah did, what Paul said, and what Yahushua said. None of those passages fit that case. Now, let me be clear, because I know how people like to twist one thing into something else. I'm not speaking against being loud or speaking with authority. We know that Yahushua was a loud, austere man. The Bible says his voice was like the sound of many waters. So he wasn't quiet and passive. We also know that the Bible commands us to cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet. So as men, we should speak with authority. But it goes on to say, "And show my people their transgression." So the Most High gave us authority to show our people their sins, not to be yelling obscenities. We yell out the scriptures through the power of the Most High. So let's not take what I'm saying about filthy language and try to twist that into me saying that we should be soft, quiet, and passive. I don't believe that, and I don't teach that. So if I see somebody accusing me of that on the comment board, I'm going to block you for bearing false witness. There are no verses that justify us using filthy language in connection to the Most High. We are not the children of this world, and we should not be identified with them by the way that we speak. Everybody in this truth should be intelligent enough to get your point across without conforming to this world. This is Romans chapter 12 and verse 2. It says, "And be not conformed to this world." Watch this. "But be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." You're supposed to have the mind of Yahushua, not the mind you had before you came into the truth. So renew your mind. It says, "That ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of the Most High." Again, some of you may think this is not that serious, but it is, because you represent the Most High. So no matter how spiritual you claim to be, no matter how many breakdowns and precepts you know, a filthy mouth makes you look filthy. Remember, you represent the Most High, so act like it, Israel, and talk like it as well. Now, before I end this video, please be advised, all general comments are accepted. If you disagree with something that I say, you have that right. However, if you attack me on a personal level outside of the scriptures and resort to name calling and childish, unspiritual behavior, your comment will be erased and you will be blocked. Also, if you disagree with something that I teach, that's fine. You have the right to comment about it. But if you make a comment in disagreement and you don't use scriptures to support what you're saying, I won't block you, but your comment will be erased because I deal with scriptures, not opinions. Now, to the sincere Israelites who watch my videos, I'm not talking to y'all. I appreciate you guys for taking the time out to watch and listen. But I'm talking to these immature, non-spiritual trolls who always have something to say. But when you go to their page, 9 times out of 10, they don't have one single video teaching anything. But yet, they want to come on my page and teach in the comment section. I'm not allowing that anymore. So, with that being said, as always, I hope that somebody got some understanding from this video. And with that, I say, Shalom.